This is the first of two units where we're going to begin to take a look at our national government in some detail. In this particular lesson, we're going to take a look at our very first national government, the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation went into effect the very same year the American Revolution ended in 1781. A confederation government is a looser association than the union style of government. And here the issue was power. And right now the brand new 13 states had all of the power, and the last thing they wanted to do was give up more than they absolutely had to a new national government that they were creating. We can see here in Article 2 that they were creating the government for the purpose, I should say in Article 3, for the purpose of defense in particular. All right, but again, the concern in terms of the states is the issue of giving up power and giving up as little power as they have to. Let's take a look and see how this played out. So we can see here in Article 5 lays out the structure of this new national government, indicating that there will be delegates from each of the states, which will be appointed annually, and they're going to meet in Congress. So there's going to be a legislative body called Congress, where we can see each state shall have one vote. Here in Article 9, we're going to specify the powers that this Congress has, which isn't too many, and is largely foreign policy related, as we can see here in terms of carrying out war and entering into treaties and alliances with foreign nations, sending ambassadors, and the like. The key to this paragraph is actually the bottom line that you can see on the screen, or second to the bottom line that you can see on the screen, suggesting that Congress, or not suggesting, saying that Congress can use none of its powers unless 9 states agree to allow it. So in other words, for legislation to be passed in this Congress, you needed 9 out of the 13 votes to get a law passed. Keep in mind, a majority of 13 is 7, not 9. So they're creating a situation where you need a supermajority, which would be more difficult to get. So this was intended to make lawmaking a more difficult task. So then, just to summarize at this point, the government itself under the Articles of Confederation was a one-house Congress where each state had 1 vote and 9 votes were needed to pass legislation. And largely they could handle issues of foreign policy. All right? If that's the sum total of all that this government can basically do, this is going to be a big, big problem. As we can see here, we need a national government to do more things. The Articles of Confederation government was particularly weak. All right, the states were broke from the American Revolution. This Congress lacked the power to tax, so all it could do was beg the states for money. All right, another key thing that this government didn't have was the ability to regulate interstate trade between the states. So the states began doing some very silly thing like taxing each other's goods that were crossing into their state. All right, and of course there was no enforcement mechanism for the laws that the Articles could make. There was no way that the government had, the government did not have the ability to enforce its own laws. We can see here in terms of the weaknesses some of the things that I've already mentioned. What I haven't mentioned is in number 2, states bickered among themselves. They even printed their own money, so that's going to lead to economic chaos. So, for example, if someone from Georgia is in New York and trying to spend Georgia currency in New York, who's going to want that? It's like someone from Russia coming to the United States with Russian currency, trying to spend it here. You know, who wants Russian currency here? It has no value here. Item number 3 is in the next slide. Shays' Rebellion is going to be the catalyst that leads to change. But the bottom line really is item number 4. Congress was in no position to deal with any of these problems that were occurring. Now, the Articles of Confederation government really did show its flaws very early on. All right, but given that we were largely a nation of rural farmers, much more self-sufficient than we are today, um, it was going to take more than just the flaws that were seen to get folks to realize that the government needed to be changed. Shays' Rebellion is going to be that catalyst. What happened, keep in mind, I mentioned before, all of the states were relatively in bad financial shape because of the costs associated with the American Revolution. All right, here in this situation, you have Massachusetts that passed a tax that specifically hurt farmers. So farmers in western Massachusetts, led by Daniel Shays, rebelled. All right, began burning down the courthouses in western Massachusetts, and in protest of this tax. Now, Congress was not in a position to do anything about this. Of course, this was a state problem, but everyone began to recognize all of the states were in a difficult situation, and any state could have passed a tax that hit a specific group of people, and what would stop those people from rebelling in that state. And again, the national government under the Articles of Confederation had no power to deal with this larger problem of the fact that everybody really was broke, and getting a handle on national finances and the finances that the states were dealing with. So, again, this event was the catalyst that led folks to sit down in Philadelphia and commit to fixing the Articles of Confederation. So then, just to sum up, our first government in this country was called the Articles of Confederation. It had a one-house Congress, and each state had one vote. We already know from this lesson that the Articles of Confederation government was much, much too weak. In 1787, as a result of Shays' Rebellion, the framers of what would become the Constitution, we'll get to that lesson tomorrow, in the next lesson, uh, the framers sat down to fix the Articles of Confederation. All right,